Hello, this is Igor Stenmark at MGI Research. We are at Monetize Forum 2021 conference. In our next session, Systems Integration M&A Goldrush, the Argano approach, we will focus on consolidation in the systems integration market, specifically as it applies to digital operations and quote to cash. Earlier in the conference, you may have heard some investor perspectives on M&A. These focus primarily on software and fintech. In this session, we will focus on services M&A and get a perspective from someone who successfully wears multiple hats: executive, board member, and consultant. So our guest today is Chip Register. Chip is the group CEO of Argano LLC. Prior to this role, he was a member of a 9-person executive board of Publicis Group, one of the 3 largest media and communications holding companies in the world, and co-CEO of Publicis Sapient, a digital transformation division with around $3 billion in services revenue. He joined Publicis when it acquired Sapient in 2015. At Sapient, he, as a CEO of Sapient Consulting, one of its 2 operating divisions, focused on industry-led consulting and IT services. In 2010, Chip was named one of the top 25 consultants in the world by Consulting Magazine. Register also serves on several boards of directors and advisory boards for companies innovating enterprise and consumer technologies and services. Chip is joining today from one of my favorite places in the world, New Orleans. Chip, welcome to Monetize Forum 2021. We're delighted to have you here.
Hey, Igor, thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. So for starters, who is Argano? What is your focus?
So hopefully Argano represents an innovation in digital services for a new age. Argano is a platform, it's an operating company, but it's a platform, and it's made up of best of breed service providers that represent different skill sets across a couple of different continuums in the digital operating platform space. The digital operating platform, in my parlance, is sort of the noun behind the verb of agile monetization, right? So the digital operating platform is how you monetize demand. What happens once you've generated demand? I spent a whole chunk of my career at Publicis and Publicis Sapient, sort of really focused on demand generation, all the way from brand through omni-channel digital strategy, all the way up to commerce. But I think what a lot of, and we will talk about this a little later in the session probably, I think what a lot of people have lost focus on, and certainly a lot of service providers have lost the skill on, is the monetization aspect. It's what do you do after demand is generated? How do you run an efficient and an effective company that is capable of not only enabling the vision and the service and products and experiences that you have, but the ones that you want to have. So we believe that in order to refocus on the digital operating platform, in order to refocus on agile monetization, it requires a new type of operating platform in the digital services environment. So Argano is a platform. It represents a whole bunch of best of breed companies that bring skill sets in business solutions, skill sets in different technologies, skill sets in different industry specializations together in sort of a mosaic, but specifically focused on this problem of agile monetization through a reimagining of the digital operating platform, with the total intent of making it an enabler of the reimagination of commerce, as opposed to an albatross around the neck of your legacy enterprise.
Got it. Your first partner on the platform is Quest, a company based in Dallas, company we know actually very well. What attracted you to Quest?
Quest is a great firm, and it's a great example of the type of partners that we have on the platform. First of all, starts with super strong leadership and super strong culture. I think, whether we're talking about Argano, we're talking about acquisition in general, there's an old saying, you bet on jockeys, not horses, right? And if you look at Quest, you see an incredible leadership team that's been together for 15 or 20 years, that's really made a dent in the universe that they specialize in, which is solving complex B2B sales enablement and operating environments. That's really where they put their mark in. They have great brand in it. People know Kest for their ability to do impactful work in this space. But it starts with the people who put that company together and the people who've been running it for 2 decades. They're fantastic. Not only they built a great team, a great organization, and a great culture, but they've also built a great capability set. That I always say, we sort of joke about it now. Kest was overbuilt in the sense that they solved a lot of as a growing company, a smaller company, and then a growing company, solved a lot of the problems that that companies face as they move from phase to phase to phase to their development. A $5 million services firm and a 50 and 150 and a 500 million. Those are all different companies. And Kest has always been building itself in preparation for being the next level company. So it has a lot of great platform aspects in the way that they think about their strategy, in the way they think about their delivery, in the way they think about their culture, in the way they think about their global delivery capabilities. They've built a lot of things that a company their size, most of them haven't done that yet. But they were very forward-looking and built a lot of these great capabilities. So a lot of the joiners to the platform later will be able to leverage some of their thinking and some of their capabilities that, as I say in a joking way, a little overbuilt or a little pre-built for what they need today. But just goes to show, credit to the leadership and the culture to always be thinking, 2 steps ahead.
Definitely leadership, depth of management, those are key things, no question about that. What attracts you guys to the monetization space itself? We certainly know why this is important and think it's worth spending time on. Our whole kind of effort is oriented around that. You guys obviously have a lot of choice. You could have invested in a wide variety of strategies. Why digital operations and monetization? So
I touched on this a little bit a few minutes ago, but the way that we see the world is there's picture a rubber band. There's a gap developing in the market between what I refer to as the digital experience platform and the digital operating platform. So the digital experience platform is what we've all been hyperventilating about for the last 15 years. Pick a date. Was it the advent of the introduction of the iPhone or the App Store or the cloud or something like that, that started to take place between 2005, 2010, started to reshape societally. We talk a lot about the digital renaissance. Starting in the 21st century, we entered a period of a digital renaissance that in my view is no less transformative potentially than the renaissance of the 16th century. And we all went to work really fast and hard and invested tons of dollars and shifted all of our focus, both as service providers and as enterprises, on how to reimagine ourselves to be relevant in that new economy. So it was all about how to be the X of the future, the bank of the future, the retailer of the future, the oil company of the future, whatever it was, the healthcare company of the future. It was all about reimagining yourself, which meant radical product, service, and experience design shifts. And we all got very active in that. And both at Sapient, which created Sapient Nitro, which was the world's first digital agency. Publicis acquired Sapient to get at this in the broader digital transformation market. So a lot of my experience has been over the last 15 or 20 years looking at this digital experience platform, saying, how do we change our brand, change our business to be the something of the future? The problem is that created a gap in investment, in attention, in technology, just in effort of the distance between the digital experience platform and what we could imagine, and the digital operating platform, what we could do efficiently and effectively. And I think that gap's been growing and growing and growing. You see it both on the client side, which is all sorts of heat and smoke coming off these engines, because we're trying to do things in a much more customized way, a much more self-service way, a much more mobile way. a much more intelligent way, a much more personalized way. All these are the dimensions of expectation that customers have for good service now, and the digital operating platform just can't accommodate it in most senses, in most instances. And I think that's really where tons and tons of effort is going to have to go now. I'm by no means saying that the digital experience platform, oh, we're done with that and we're going to stop. Investment's going to keep pouring in that direction and should, right? But in the digital operating platform, that's where there hasn't been the investment and must be in order to not become an albatross for all of your innovative ideas and your factors of competition in the future. But also what we find, and having run a large company, I can tell you is that the service model is not constructed anymore to really get at the digital operating platform. It needs, I think the world came to view work in that area as sort of uninteresting, commoditized, less compelling work than the digital experience platform. And service company after service company after service company either got rid of their capability or de-emphasized their capability. And what we believe is it's not just a re-emphasization of the importance of work in the digital operating platform, but it actually needs to become as dynamic and innovative a part of the business infrastructure as the digital experience platform. All of the technologies, all of the lessons, all of the experiences we've had there need to translate back into the fulfillment engine, into the monetization engine. So how we use cloud, how we use AI, how we use, all these things, how we think about data, all of these things, integration, all these things that we've been doing and focusing on in the front need to move to the back. And the service companies, I find, really aren't good at this anymore. Said they lost their attention, they lost their capability, they lost their view of it as important. And that's an opportunity not only to step into a less competitive place that has a massive, cold face of demand, but it's also an opportunity to change a little bit how it's done. So, Argano is a platform that's made up of companies that are best in the world of solving some of these problems that are now working together in an at-scale, global, integrated way that I think will be far more compelling than the broad, bland, poorly delivered services offered by the big systems integrators that you might call to say, hey, do me a big transformational project in this area. And you sort of get the old pea soup version as opposed to this, which hopefully is super sharp, super crisp, and super well delivered.
So it sounds like you're building a critical mass of kind of best in class, best in the world specialists in monetization.
Right. That's right. But doing it in a very integrated way, scalable, in a very thoughtful, purpose-built way.
Yep. So you described, once we spoke about it, you described Argano as having kind of a build-out versus a roll-up approach. Mm-hmm. What's the difference and why the build-out approach?
Well, a roll-up is something you commonly see where people say, hey, I'm going to go pick a technology or pick a capability, and I'm going to go out on an acquisition spree and stack up this capability so it gets to scale. That scale will give you some kind of change in valuation, and then that's the basis behind an investment thesis, right? You take a capability, you make it bigger, and then it becomes more valuable just on the nature of its scale. This is not a roll-up. This is a mosaic. So what we've done is we've said what we're looking at primarily in 3 axes, but not only. If you look at business solutions inside agile monetization, so look at commerce, look at CPQ, look at billing, look at order management, look at subscription, look at ERP, look at HCM, look at supply chain, look at procurement, look at EPM, look at these different business solutions that are in the monetization world or the digital operation platform. That's an axis for us. We want some of each of those, not all of one, right? We're not trying to build a big digital commerce company, right? That's not what, we're not trying to build a big ERP company. We're trying to build a big digital operating platform company. So we need skills across that value chain. Secondarily, is technology. We need to be able to deliver those solutions in the client's technology of choice. So it shouldn't matter to us, doesn't matter to us, what technology language the client chooses to speak. right? That we ought to be able to deliver services in the digital operating platform, because we believe that our value is as a business solutions partner, not a technology implementation partner. So for us, technology is something we have to have a broad suite of capabilities. And then thirdly is industry expertise. We have a select set of industries that we think are worth focusing on, and we do believe in an industry focus because industries themselves are languages, and I think anybody can execute in any industry, but to innovate in an industry, I think you have to have expertise. You have to understand the language. You have to understand the best practices in that industry. You have to understand the technology stack in that industry. You have to understand what's working and what's not working and the business models of those industries. That anybody can go do an implementation, they'll be fine. Right? If you want to be an innovative partner, an innovation partner, or a strategy partner, I think you got to have some deep industry expertise to be able to have an intelligent conversation that's differentiated. So those are primarily how we think about it. In terms of the mosaic, we're looking across those three lenses. Geography is clearly also one. We want to be globally distributed in our talent pool, so we can offer a mix of offerings from a delivery standpoint. We're interested in market segment. So what parts of the market segments different companies are good at? We want to have a diversity of that as well. So there's some other ones as well, but those are the big three. And with the big focus on business solutions, we want to be seen as a company as a service provider that is a thought partner in the digital operating platform, and everything else is a capability.
Yep, got it. So you've been involved in a lot of transactions in your career, acquisitions, integrations, and since you've done brought guests on board, you're now looking at a handful more transactions. What's different about doing M&A in pandemic times? I mean, there's a people aspect here. How do you guys manage it? How do you handle it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I have been I've done a lot of M&A through the years. Interestingly, over the last couple of years of my career, working with private equity firms, so sitting on the other side of the table, that was super enlightening. And now again as an operator, but an operator who's growing in an inorganic way as well as an organic way. So three sort of different perspectives brought to it. The biggest, clearly, and you mentioned it, the biggest is if you believe in the idea of bet on jockeys, not horses, it is more difficult to really understand the leadership and the culture of a company if you just can't do the hours, the face-to-face hours, the formal versus informal hours. The conference room hours versus the dinner hours. It's just harder to really get a natural read on those things. You can't go meet dozens and dozens and dozens of employees and ask them the same questions and see how it triangulates, questions of strategy, questions of culture, questions of leadership, and see how they all you just can't do it, or you can't do it certainly to the same depth. So that's a big one. A couple of other ones, maybe a little bit more during or post-acquisition, communicating with people, right? You got to remember that when you acquire a company, exactly 0% of the population, or maybe just one or two people out of the entire population decided to work for you, chose to work for you, right? So you have a lot of work to do to go to convince them that this thing that's happening is in their interests. They weren't part of the decision. They probably didn't even know of the decision, right? So in order to build culture and to create, we start everything from, hey, we're not an M&A process. Our platform is a joiner model. Our platform is for people who think the next best destiny of their company is on this platform. We're not acquiring anybody, right? That's not our point. But and I think the people involved in the transaction and people involved in that decision all get that and they're fine with it. But then there's 1,000 people who weren't, right? And they have their own culture and their own pride and their own way of working and their own concerns, and you have to be super communicative with those people about why they should believe what we've all told them to be true, and that takes a lot of communications. Typically I would go do roadshow after roadshow after roadshow, meeting with teams from 2 people to to 2,000 people, talking about what we are and what we believe, what vision, what values, what beliefs, what behaviors do we share, and why strategically this is in everyone's interest, and especially why maybe tactically why it's in all of their interest. Like, what do they get to get out of this whole event? So that's harder to do. And I think the other one is, again, this is maybe a during or post process, but it's getting the team, the leadership teams working together, right? I mean, we all become, we all become team members when the first shot gets fired, right? That's an old saying. And right. It's just, if teams can come together, work together, solve problems in a common way, that develops that cohesion and that co-ownership and all those things. It's just harder to produce virtually than you'd like. But otherwise, I think on the other hand, there's a lot of myths about this type of process, which might not have been true. Like, It's impossible. I think a year ago, people would, 18 months ago, people would have said, what you're talking about is today's reality is impossible. It could never happen. Right. And in fact, it is.
We've seen so much activity in the market, so definitely possible.
Sure.
We're almost coming to a close of our session here. In conclusion, I wanted to ask you one more question here quickly. Mm-hmm. What should every CEO or CFO do to prepare their business for an outside investment?
So I'll tell you, the number one thing that we find is get your data ready to tell your story, right? Because everybody is looking, everybody in the world, most people have the same website, everybody's got the same deck, right? And it's all got the same sort of grand statements and core beliefs and values and strategy, and identifies the same problems and articulates the same capabilities. But then somebody's going to say, prove that you do that, right? And that's a data exercise. Right. I want to see, slice this information this way to show me that you're doing that. Right. Not that you say you do that, but that you actually do that, and that you actually are successful doing that. You're actually efficiently and effectively delivering that service. Effectively means you impact your client. Efficiently means you can make money doing it. Right. So get your data in a place where you can actually support your story with that. But one other thing that I think, is on the soft side. Understand that people are evaluating you as an individual as much as your data or your story, right? Because lots of people look at things and say, hey, this business, good, bad, or indifferent. The leadership is strong or weak. The culture is strong or weak. The strategy is strong or weak. The vision is strong or weak. And that, that's how you come off a compass point in one direction or the other. Yep. Understand that how you're presenting and how you think about your organization and how you think about your culture and all that, I mean, at least to me, super matters. It's incredibly important that you've thought about these things. And if you show up and talk about nothing but, how you make money in a business, kind of less interested, right? Yep. So just some thoughts out there for anybody that thinks they might want to be in the process.
Definitely words of wisdom, and sounds like it comes from a lot of deep experience here. So
a lot of scar tissue.
A lot of scars on your back. Yeah. Well, Chip, I want to thank you for joining us here today and participating in the conference. I want to remind everybody to go and visit the Kest virtual booth at the virtual exhibit floor. I'm sure Kest and the team there would be happy to answer any additional questions. Thank you all for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of Monetize Forum 2021. Hope to see you again.